Factorio Space Age. Why does it have one planet for $35 when you can get an additional 4 for the same price with the additional cost of all your free time and soul? This is my completely blind playthrough and descent into addiction. Now sit back and enjoy. Oh hey, when'd you get here? Well, you're probably wondering how I got here. You know, stranded in the middle of space, forced to do interplanetary travel without a ship. I'm slightly too embarrassed to say, but not too embarrassed to show.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Not my brightest moment, but we really should start this from the beginning. What the hell? Too early! Too early! Much better. So after crash landing, please don't ask why. I find myself here on Nauvis. Instead of sending out some sort of SOS signal, I have decided to recreate all scientific progress with the power of automation. Fortunately, this planet has coal, copper, iron, and stone all in my immediate vicinity. Everything a growing factory needs. Unfortunately, it also has some things it doesn't. These things are so eloquently named biters, for obvious reasons. They grow stronger with pollution, much like myself, and they hate growing factories. So here's the plan. Step 1, build a factory. Step 2, interplanetary travel. And Step 3. I don't know, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Since I didn't bring a copy of the internet on my ship, we will have to recreate all scientific progress from scratch. We are going to have to research everything from steel beams to jet fuel. To do this, we will need to use the scientific method. The scientific method consists of transmuting things, including but not limited to electric ovens, into various different colored fluids and dumping them into a lab. With this simple trick, you can research pretty much anything. So, after setting up the basics, aka all the resources, red science plus green science, and all the research that entails, things start to get a little complicated. You see, my first main goal is getting robots, and to do that, I need oil. Weird connection. But first things first, acquiring some. Using my American instincts, I quickly locate a small amount, just enough to fuel my greed for now, and pipe it back to my base. Is what I'd like to say, except for this is where I discovered the new fluid distance limit. So, I just set up oil processing a little further from my base than I'd like, since I didn't know it could be extended by pumps yet. Also around this time, I noticed a weird item I'd never seen before in my inventory, named spoilage. I'm certain this item won't cause me immense pain and suffering in the future. With basic oil processing done, I quickly set up blue science and researched advanced oil processing, as I was barely producing any crude oil and this recipe is much more efficient. I was also going to have to do this anyway for lube, which is the final thing I need for robots. Speaking of, they're done, and I'm immediately putting them to work. The biters have been getting a bit restless, so I decided to create a massive non-polluting solar farm. When I say I decided to create, I mean I decided to force my unpaid robots to do it. My starter iron patch was running out, and after some exploration, I found a massive new patch quite far from my base. However, it was guarded by an equally massive biter nest. I decided to relocate them to the afterlife, which was far easier said than done. After crashing into the same damn rock 3 times, I repeat, 3 times in a row, I decided that cars suck. I switched to the far better strategy of panically placing gun turrets and shoving them full of ammo, which worked great until I ran out of ammo. After being forced to do an impromptu sushi trip to survive, I almost lost hope. Fortunately, I brought my knife wrench with me that just barely managed to finish the job. Since you can create the rocket silo as soon as you have blue science, I arbitrarily decided to make it even though I won't use it for about another 20 hours, since I'm not leaving until the factory is sufficiently grown. There are 3 requirements for this. In no particular order, they are: Number 1, limitless power, aka nuclear power. Number 2, setting up all research production, as I've only done red, green, and blue, while still have yet to automate military purple and yellow science. Don't ask why military is the only one called by its real name, that's just how it is. And number 3, dealing with the ever-growing biter problem permanently. Starting with the power problem, I set up uranium processing on a small patch of 80,000 near my base. Fun fact, this was the only uranium mine I used for the entire run. After that, I decided that my starter base sucks, and from its ashes, I can build a far better base. As I directed my robots that were being paid in exposure and nothing more, the biters actually decided to help me out for once and took part in the deconstruction. With the power of editing, there it is. You don't want to know how long this took me. It doesn't actually have the new science packs yet, so I not so quickly set up both purple and yellow science. After which, I come to a terrible realization. You see, my power problems were bad before I quadrupled the size of my factory, but now it's horrendous. The issue is that my factory was almost entirely defended by laser turrets that require electricity to run. This combined with my quadrupled pollution production was a recipe for disaster. I'm left with no choice other than to commit treason of the highest order. The factory must be shut down for its own good. In a blind rage, I grab my flamethrower and get to work. For Factorio! When I finally came back to my senses, it appears that my American instincts have kicked back in and I made a massive border wall, giving me far more space than I could ever need. By the way, I set up military science just before all this went down, in case you were wondering. Also, enough time passed during that massacre that my uranium mine generated some actually useful uranium-235, so I was able to create my beautiful clean power plant. At this point, I feel empowered to enter the great vast unknown that is space. Age, DLC, as everything I've done so far was literally just the base game. So I get the rocket silo from storage, set it up, and do a quick test run. Glad to see some things haven't changed. I make a space starter pack, launch it up in a rocket, and now what? My whole goal was getting to space, but now that I'm here, I have no idea what to do. This is showcased by me taking a rocket up to my new platform to start building, except I couldn't get out, and the platform actually builds automatically. I didn't even need to be there. The problem was, I wasn't figuring that out, and started hitting every button in rage, launching the tiny amount of space platforms I had back to Nauvis. It took me both a comical and depressing amount of time to learn how to build. And even then, it's only because I used the tutorial. Eventually, I figured out you're supposed to make space science in space. Yeah, really had to put 2 and 2 together there. I make this monstrosity and start researching the new planets. While researching them, I decide to future-proof my base. I set up Covrex for essentially unlimited nuclear fuel. I set up a bot mall for remote building while I'm gone. Secured some new resource patches, especially oil. Made a new and improved nuclear reactor, this time with hazard concrete, so you know it's legit. And finally, before setting off, I decided to investigate the new, recently introduced quality mechanic. There are 4 quality levels, 5 if you count the base quality. Epic and legendary quality are locked until you research them later on, so we can ignore them for now. Quality modules give you a chance of producing an item at a higher quality. What being a higher quality does depends on the item, but it just overall makes the item better. Some examples of this are solar panels producing more power at higher quality levels and power armor having a larger equipment grid and inventory size. At the time, I didn't really know what quality was all about or what I was going to do with it, so I threw quality modules in all of my intermediate product assembly machines, such as circuits, and siphoned off the quality items to store in chests. After this, I finally decided I was ready for interplanetary travel. I made this very compact shaft of a ship, as I thought ship weight actually mattered at this point, and was left with an important decision. Where am I actually going? There are 3 planets I can go to at this point. They are Vulcanus, Fulgora, and Gleba. As this was a completely blind playthrough, I didn't have much information to base my decision off of. Some of the very limited information I had came from an unexpected source, the main menu. You see, Factorio's main menu will sometimes play brief snippets of gameplay from these 3 planets. through which I determined that Gleba looks terrifying, as a natural selection and evolution have shown time and time again that everything turns into crabs. Fulgora looks boring, that's it. And Vulcanus looks amazing, with super death worms destroying everything. I don't know why, but the destruction worms just look fun to me. So with that, and the fact that Vulcanus has much more solar panel power production, I knew my first destination. After an uneventful trip, I arrived and had no clue what to do. I started gathering resources from rocks. I noticed they contained a new resource called tungsten. On this rock collecting journey, I encountered my first demolisher. And well, it went a little like this. It wasn't even close, and this was the weakest variant. There are small, medium, and big demolishers, and after this defeat, I vowed to myself that I would kill one of each before I moved on to the next planet. That vow ended up causing me so much trouble, but more on that later. For now, my ship in orbit is slowly being destroyed as, unbeknownst to me, there are dangerous asteroids in orbit here, unlike on Nauvis. I sent my ship back, but the damage was already done, as the ammo reserves were already depleted, and well, miraculously, it was able to rebuild itself faster than it was being destroyed and barely made it back. Finally, having some time to think, since I somehow found myself back in the burner portion of the game, I started to figure things out. Somehow, you're expected to make a factory out of nothing but coal, sulfuric acid, tungsten, and calcite. Luckily, calcite is a miracle mineral and can create pretty much anything. Iron, copper, steam/water, and even heavy oil. You are given a starter patch outside of Demolisher territory to get started, unlike with tungsten, which is strictly located in Demolisher territory. The problem is figuring out how to turn calcite into these things. That's where the new premier machine of Vulcanus comes in, the Foundry. This thing is every Factorio player's wet dream. Insanely fast crafting speed and 50% productivity bonus. It can use calcite and lava to create molten copper and iron. This is also the only way to automate the production of these minerals on Vulcanus. So to create a foundry, you need steel, reinforced concrete, lube, and tungsten carbide. Steel and reinforced concrete are pretty easy to come by, but lube and tungsten carbide, not so much. Tungsten carbide is made pretty easily with an assembly machine, but the hard part is acquiring large amounts of tungsten. For the time being, my only source of tungsten is rocks, and that's, well, a bit time-consuming. The second thing is loot, which has you turn calcite, coal, and a dab of sulfuric acid into heavy oil, and then using that to create lube. So now that I had access to foundries, I set up a quick and dirty starter base, and set my eyes on the next target, a stable supply of tungsten. So I crafted a big mining drill, which is absolutely insane, by the way, with a 50% decrease in resource drain, 2.5 mining speed, and a massive 13x13 mining area. It is also the only mining drill that can mine tungsten, as tungsten is too hard for the other drills. After setting up my first drill, I got a weird achievement, which I promptly ignored until I saw a demolisher barreling straight at me. As it turns out, if you build on their territory, they get pissed, and will destroy all your hopes and dreams. This meant it was round 2 with these things, except this time will be different. You see, I did a little digging, and the Demolisher's stats are visible in the Factoriopedia. With this information, I formed the perfect plan, and just kidding. After I saw these stats, particularly the 2,400 HP regen per second, I determined it to be impossible to beat even the small variant of Demolisher with my available methods. My exact thought process here was that there has to be some sort of research on this planet that would allow me to actually fight back, because there was absolutely no other way to do it. So, after a quick glance into the tech tree, I noticed artillery, my beloved, locked behind orange science, which needs tungsten. So I was kind of stuck. I needed tungsten to research artillery, but I needed artillery to get a stable supply of tungsten. Now, before everyone and their mom types in the comments about how you can easily kill small demolishers by insert method here, I know that now, but back then, I was all on my own, as this was a completely blind playthrough. By the way, I swear to God, if you comment, actually, you can easily kill demolishers before artillery, or any other variation of that, I will personally like and heart it. So, since I was stuck, I decided to safely mine rocks for tungsten required for artillery. That is, until I started to hate my life. I then decided on a real solution to this problem. It's pretty simple. You see, all I had to do was take the demolisher and move it somewhere else. I set up this fancy tungsten mine and proceeded to get the demolisher's attention and have it chase me instead of destroying all my stuff. I did this for a long time, but it worked perfectly. I got more than enough tungsten to research artillery, and I could finally get some sweet, sweet revenge. This was quite the mixed bag. The main issue I ran into was that big demolishers are... To make a long story short, my first attempt with both the small and medium demolishers were losses because I didn't build enough artillery. Simple fix though, just build more. After that, small and medium demolishers were a breeze. That brings us to the big problem. Get it? Big, because big demolishers? My first attempt on a big demolisher followed the usual formula in the beginning. After this, it deviated in that no matter how much I built, it was impossible. I want you to guess how much health this big demolisher has left after this bombardment. Half? A quarter? Maybe almost dead? Oh yeah, that's right. It has full HP. Alright, info dump time. These are every variant of demolisher's stats, and here are the actual important ones. Furthermore, one of these is by far the most important, and that is HP regen. Now let's break this down into actually practical terms. The longer it takes to kill a demolisher, the more damage you have to deal. Now in terms of total amount of artillery shells to kill, I actually don't know, since there are a couple variables. Those being that demolishers are made up of segments, and each segment can take damage separately from the same attack, your artillery damage level, of which mine was level 3 at the time, giving me a 30% damage increase, and the demolisher's head taking a little more damage than the body. Since I know the Factorio community, I literally have zero doubts that someone in the comments will figure out the math on how many artillery shells it takes to kill a big demolisher based on time to kill and perfect aim. So, to whoever you are, thank you in advance, and I will pin your comment. So in order to fire the artillery, you have to click. One click is one shot, and you need an almost inhuman amount of clicks per second in order to even have a chance at killing a big demolisher. Which brings us to my IRL base stats. I personally believe myself to be an amazing button masher. That is under one circumstance though. Whatever device I'm using must be held in place. That means no aiming. So here are my clicks per second both while aiming/moving my mouse and while I'm holding my mouse down. Note the significant difference. My best attempt with only artillery got the big demolisher down to about 25% HP before my arm literally gave out on me. Who would have known that I would wind up blowing my arm out in Factorio of all games? So, like a real engineer would, I finally set up landmines and gun turrets. Just kidding. Like an actual real engineer, I just automated the clicking. I figured 50 clicks per second should be far more than enough, and honestly, it was too easy. I even did a victory lap by killing a random medium demolisher that found itself in the wrong place at the wrong time. The final boss of Vulcanus was dead, and with it, my vow to kill each type of accursed rockworm complete. Now, before you call me a cheater, you're right, but I was legitimately hurting my arm with these attempts, and isn't automation what Factorio is really about? If you think you can do better, I will upload the save to my Patreon, and you're free to suffer through the attempts like I did. With this, I was finally done with Vulcanus. and was once again left the choice of which planet to go to next. My options this time were Fulgora and Gleba, but it was an easy choice since I was still haunted by the Gleba. Thank you so much for watching part 1 of my space age journey, and I'm sorry for splitting this up into 2 parts. In the beginning, I fully intended to make this one big video, but a bunch of stuff happened IRL which kept me from giving it my full attention. That being said, you're listening to a brand new master's student. Please hold the applause until I get out of the massive student loan debt. I fully intend to release my next video much faster than this one. Speaking of, you can vote for the next video I create on my Patreon as a free or paid member. Factorio Part 2 won't be on there this time, but I will add the next vote when this video reaches an arbitrary amount of likes. As per usual, I would like to give a special thanks to my patrons, as this video wouldn't be possible without the 2 of you that voted for me to create it. Not as per usual, I would like to give a huge shout out to Doshington for not helping at all with the creation of this video. Keep up the good fight against the YouTube compression algorithm, Dosh. Lastly, I shall leave you guys with which game I would prefer to win the next vote to bias your decision.